Bleach is also one of the coolest, most hype. Like you care about the characters, you care about the leveling up. It was influential. It was one of the big three. You can't take
Yeah.
that. You can't take that away. Me coming in with the I could do this was not necessarily just Bleach. It was just looking at the Japanese approach to making comics and
Okay.
how it was spearheaded by one mind.
You got a loyal fan base, man. As soon as I threw up,
I appreciate y'all. I
yeah,
appreciate
the
y'all.
the fan base is crazy.
Have you seen Death Note, right?
Of course, that's a top tier right
Yeah,
there.
if you've not seen Death Note, I just shut down. Just shut everything down because
Yeah, Death Note is top tier.
you're not real.
What I see personally is the culture of people who read manga and the culture of people who read comics. People who read comics are used to paying for comics. People who read manga are used to ripping that for free. Does it hurt you labeling it as a manga and then trying to sell it or not? I have been following you for a minute, man, and you guys are pretty big. I like what you guys have going on. How did you get into the realm of saying, "Hey, I want to start my own indie manga publishing company"?
That's like it's a long, super long story as you can imagine. Before everybody would just throw in their stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and just posting what they had online. Everybody had dreams of writing their own story, influenced by the big three at that era, or just comics in general, Western entertainment, media, all that. And people were just following their dreams. And I'm sure people also had ideas of maybe trying to create like a Shonen Jump type thing.
Yeah.
There were a couple at the time, but not really like a Shonen Jump. It was just places where you could post your, almost like what Webtoon is today. There was one called Ink Blazers back in the day, and it was cool because it was one of the first ways you could. It was kind of modernizing itself, similar to like a YouTube, not exactly, but you know how YouTube you get from the ads and monetizing and all that kind of stuff. So they had their own
Yeah.
system at the time. And so if your comic got featured, there was like a pool that everybody would share from depending on how much traffic you brought in. And then there was a premium where it was a bigger pool with like 20K or something like that, where
Okay.
depending on how much traffic the creators in premium, and there weren't that many, it was like maybe 20 or something like that, would
Okay.
would split would split the pool and then feature it. It was more than 20, but there was a smaller pool. So I used to post stuff there. And then
Yeah.
before that, obviously tried to enter contests, did my own stuff. But before all of this, right, we're inspired by just same thing that you probably inspired by as well. And I wanted to write comics. I wanted to create comics. I always drew. Growing up in Nigeria, and the power outages and stuff, you kind of draw to entertain yourself in a way. And I used to draw Spider-Man, Punisher, all kinds. I drew all kinds of stuff, Superman, and it was how I made friends for the most part because I wasn't too talkative, but you know, oh, he drew Superman. Like everybody's bored, so we found a way. If it's not that, maybe we're playing soccer outside. But
Yeah.
once that happened, you started to think comics wasn't really a path, a realistic path. So I never really saw it as something viable. I always saw it as maybe something I do for fun or a hobby or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But as time went on, certain series got more popular. I remember Bleach being the first time where I thought I could do this. I might be able to do this. And I used to write fan
Okay.
fiction online, and I got like decent feedback. So I was like, I could do this. I could do this. And then as time went on, YouTube came along. I was like, okay, I can create my own path to break into the industry if I just
Mm-hmm.
build my own audience online. Because we're in this digital age where you can do that. So I was like hip to it early on, especially seeing like creators like a Mark Crilly,
Yeah.
a Rona Project, RIP. Their artist actually died.
Damn.
But those were influential channels that made me think, okay, I can make this channel. So it was just a combination of things here, here, and here, here, here. And I always wanted to tell this story as a story I felt like, especially like certain elements and certain scenes that just keep running in your head that you feel like, yeah, you got to put out. And so eventually Apple Black was born. It went through different iterations to become what it is today, but
Okay.
it was a roller coaster of that journey. It was born. I was putting it online on websites like I mentioned earlier, and it found some success there. And then one of the co-founders of Saturday AM, Raymond, reached out to me to hook me up with the main founder, Frederick, and then Saturday AM was born. So
Nice.
like we all came together. The idea was already kind of there, but I played a role and helped in the launch and all of that.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's how it began, and it was a way to create your own path in the industry,
Okay.
and then also be a part of this mission to help bring more ideas, worlds, characters, creators into anime and manga, where it's not, we're influenced by what's done in Japan, but it's more
Okay.
than that now, right? The same way Japanese people bring their own worlds, their own ideas into their work. That's why it's mostly Japanese. We
Yeah.
wanted to create something where people from all over the world will do that for themselves and their own culture. So basically, diversifying anime and manga in interesting ways.
Okay.
And late 2013, Saturday AM was born.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been following you guys for a while. Let me introduce this real quick. Today, if you're listening on Spotify, watching this on YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching, I have Whyt Manga, the legendary Whyt Manga. You guys probably know him from the series Apple Black. Not even from me reviewing it. That shit is way solidified. I'm just like a tiny splash, and just checking that out.
Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. You're doing your thing. You grow. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate
That's
I
exactly.
appreciate the review, by the way. So
Thank you.
I know I reached out to you for the review, and just to get more people talking, get more people engaged. And when you reached out to me for the podcast, was a no brainer. So
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we're gonna get into a bunch of stuff, man. You said a ton of different things talking about your introduction into this. You mentioned Bleach. You said you watched Bleach and you're like, oh, I could definitely do this. Is this because you didn't like Bleach and you're like, oh, if they could make this shit, I could definitely make mine? Or is it because
no,
Bleach is
no,
like your top tier anime?
no. Bleach is weird because Bleach is one of them where it's like I'm a big Bleach fan,
Mm-hmm.
but if somebody doesn't like Bleach, I get it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of get it. It's like okay, that was kind of weird. Okay, I get it. But Bleach is also one of the coolest, most hype. Like you care about the characters, you care about the leveling up. It was influential. It was one of the big three. You can't take
Yeah.
that. You can't take that away.
Can't.
It was top tier anime. So me coming in with I could do this was not necessarily just Bleach. It was just looking at the Japanese approach to making comics and
Okay.
how it was spearheaded by one mind. And it wasn't in color. It came out weekly.
Mm-hmm.
You had assistants doing things here and there. The other roles, the other way of making the more Western way with the color and a whole team and like 5 million different Spider-Man happening at the same time. It was a little bit more daunting, but it was like the Japanese comics was the first time I was like, wait, this is one person. I don't need to rely on too many people. And then I see what's happening with YouTube and like people creating building their own audiences. I was like, I have a story and I can learn to, develop that story. Sometimes it's one thing to have an idea and a story, it's another thing to be able to tell it properly.
Yep.
But I could improve on all these things. What does it take to make comics? All the tutorials were there, all the online resources were there. So it was a combination of things. But what reading Bleach, specifically reading it, because you watch it, the manga's ahead, so you kind of you started reading Bleach was the first time I was like, I could do this. I could, and especially, and then I did some fanfic and got some fan fiction and got some like positive responses. Like I could do this. There was
Okay.
still no idea of how to make it fully profitable, but I knew building an audience is a good first step, and then we'll figure it out as we keep on going.
All right, cool. I want to get into that too. And again, I tell this to everybody. I'm not the IRS. You don't got to give me exact numbers, but as far as profitability and making money, we'll talk about that shit a little bit later. But you had mentioned, nah, fuck it. You know what? Let's talk about it now. You're talking about like profitability. What I see personally is the culture of people who read manga and the culture of people who read comics. People who read comics are used to paying for comics. People who read manga are used to ripping that for free. So I'm writing my own project and I speak with writers and artists and everything on both sides. I'm like, yo, it does it hurt you labeling it as a manga and then trying to sell it or not?
There is no It's a mess. There is no clean cut answer. It's complicated.
Okay.
because even those who read it free, a lot of times, right? While yes, maybe you're hurting the property a little bit because it's pirated, but even those reading it free, some of those series wouldn't have been as popular if they weren't free. Some of those
Gotcha.
series, it was coming during the rise of the internet, so therefore there were countries that were reading it that would have never had the chance to read it, right? The same part with the boom of anime, where sometimes people had to travel to Japan and then tape that and then bring it back. So the internet made it more accessible. Obviously, it hurt the money side of things a little bit. Well, maybe not a little bit, maybe a lot. Depends on
Yeah.
what publisher, depends on what series. But when you create a fan, a super fan, they're willing to just point them in the right direction, and then they're willing to pay. So you see how now Shonen Jump have it's still very cheap because they
Yeah.
know maybe they could have made it more expensive, but they know what it is. They know how the fans are, so
Yeah.
it's still extremely cheap, right? But they're still able to monetize that. They're able to monetize it from the anime. They still sell the volumes. People will read it and they will still buy the volumes. People like
Yeah.
to hold. They like to hold books,
Yeah. I
right?
see. I see that as one of the things people love to have those hard copies just to say they have it. It's almost like memorabilia.
Some people they'll buy it. They don't even read it.
Mm-hmm.
They like to collect. They like to look at webtoon. Webtoon webtoon is free.
Yeah.
The biggest webtoon are free, right? And webtoon started doing books. Mind you, it's free. There's a series there with millions of. It's free. The people buying it know. Now, when you do the book, you might have a few exclusive things here and there to make the book feel special,
Yeah.
but it's free ultimately, right? One of I think was a Lore Olympus solo leveling as well, which is not necessarily on Webtoon. I think it's on Tapas, but either way, they're free to read. But those were the top selling books.
Okay.
They beat out the Western stuff. They beat out a ton of stuff, right? And then during the pandemic, manga sold like crazy. It sold ridiculous, right? The highest it's ever broke all kinds of records. So does it hurt? The answer is it depends. Yes, people can read it free, but once you really make that person a fan, they're gonna buy merch. They're gonna dress up as cosplay. They're gonna buy the books. They're gonna collect the books, volume 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it hurts, it hurts. But depending on how you play it, it doesn't.
Okay.
It just depends. It depends on that you can carve out an example where it does hurt, right?
Okay.
But there are many more other scenarios where it doesn't, right? All these manga you see is selling millions of copies, but a push of a button you can read it for free.
Gotcha. So it's almost like when the drug dealer gives out the free samples, gets everybody hooked, and then you hit them with like the big stuff. All right. I
Yeah.
I, I could
There are
absolutely
ways
see
you
that.
can play it. There are ways even webtoon sometimes you can pay for. I think you can pay for like early access to stuff, similar like a Patreon kind of thing.
Okay.
So as long as I think if you turn him to a fan, then there are ways to monetize it to where you're good. YouTube videos are free,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have two, 20 million subscribers, you can do something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
people are
And
gonna
and,
pay
and
shit.
if the readers, watchers, fans, whatever, they're with you, they're with
Yeah. All right. That's huge right there. That's huge info. That's a good perspective because again, like I said, I asked that question, and I'm always trying to figure that out because as I create my own project, it's like shit. Do I call it a manga? Do I call it a comic? Do I just merge the two together? But you're saying it doesn't really matter. It's just how you play it.
you. Yep, it's how
Gotcha.
you. It's really how you execute. And again, I mean, when I was reading manga, my mom used to own like an internet cafe,
Okay.
and so in Nigeria,
Nice.
and all the low key, like they didn't tell me, and they knew me as, oh yeah, you're the kid, you're the mom's kid, whatever. Scammers, all of them. He's just a scam. But when they were waiting for responses, you know what they were doing? They were watching anime. They're watching anime. They're reading manga, all which was weird. And I bring that up is an obscure part of the world, and that would have never had access to that series
Mm-hmm.
if it weren't free. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right? But because now that series has gained that popularity and gained that thing, you've touched somebody on some level. Maybe something happened in that series. Then when they're in a position to actually pay for stuff, they will. Most times, it depends on how. If your story is that good and you touch that many people's lives, even if you didn't get a penny, but
Yeah.
the moment that they're in a position to do something, they will.
Hello.
But I'm sure there's also an example, a scenario where, it being free is bad, or maybe something leaked that's not supposed to
Yeah.
leak. There are examples. So it's kind of like a mess. You just need to figure out your path, how you're going to do it, and then execute as smart as possible. Like even with Saturday AM, Apple Black Volume chapters 1 to 6 were free for a long time, and it's
Okay.
not really 1 to 6, like maybe 1 to 8, but then 2 and 3 weren't free. It's hard to explain, and we can touch on it later. But like a good chunk of Apple Black chapters were free for the longest time, right? But because they like the story and then they want to support me, the creator, or sometimes it's maybe they want to support the creator. Sometimes something happened in the story, they want to support the story, they want more people to learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
They still bought. I've seen so many pictures of people buying the old versions of my book, and they still bought the new version of the book again. You know, so
You got a loyal fan base, man. As soon
I
as I
appreciate
threw up,
I appreciate y'all. I
yeah,
appreciate
the
y'all.
the fan
I,
base is crazy.
yeah,
They hit me. Somebody hit me up on Facebook. They were like, "Yo, I love this series. This." They were like, "This is like could go toe to toe with Bleach." And when I see that, I'm like, "Oh, all right, like, nah,
I
this is
appreciate
like
it. I
real
appreciate
deal
that,
right
and
here."
I try to make sure that people aren't just getting it to support me, that they're getting a good product as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are little things in the book that are exclusive to the book. So that's part of what I was talking about, how you can really make it work. So
Yeah.
here there's some pages that are in color that maybe you wouldn't have been able to ever see in
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. There's exclusive content in the books. There's a post-credit scene for all of the books, volume 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on and so forth. So it's up to you. You can be innovative. You can have fun with it, but it's also a numbers game. Even if they read it for free, if 1 million of them read it for free, and like half of them became hardcore fans, you'd have to be dumb to be broke.
Yeah, that's fucking money right there. That's bread. So and then now for yourself, and again, like I'm coming up with so many different freaking questions. So for yourself, you've got multiple different aspects. So you also took the aspect of, hey, I'm gonna kind of brand myself, but also brand my project and brand Saturday AM at the same time. That's one thing that I noticed, and I have a marketing background, so I pay attention to that shit. So you ain't getting it from me. I mean, getting away from me. So when did you guys, or when did yourself come up with the idea of, hey, I'm gonna brand myself as Whyt Manga. I'm gonna also brand my project Apple Black, and I'm gonna also brand Saturday AM all at the same time.
So a lot of the branding for the Saturday AM stuff that was powered by Frederick, who's also big into branding and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came on board, a lot of stuff was already in place.
Okay.
Um, and then for the Whyt Manga stuff, that kind of happened organically because I was already doing that on YouTube. So I was known as the manga tutorial guy,
Yeah.
right? And I'm giving to the community, sharing my finds, what I know, how they can do what I'm doing, and a decent chunk of them, maybe they like my arts, maybe they like my tutorials, but then in
You.
return sometimes they try to give back by getting the books and all this kind of thing. So I was known as
Yeah.
that guy. I still am to a degree, right? You were gonna say something?
Now I was gonna say you got one of the most concise manga tutorials on YouTube from start to finish. I just gotta throw that in there, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. So like I try to put out tutorials that I knew I was when I was coming up, the ones that I was looking for that nobody put out, that I try to make sure that those bases are covered, at least on my channel. Like if you're a subscriber of Whyt Manga TV, that you're getting that, you know what I mean, at the very least. And then a bunch of other fun stuff. And then with Apple Black, it was natural. It's like, okay, this is what the story is, this is the title, this is the logo I'm gonna use, and If I have to talk about the series here and there again, like this is it's just gonna be, it's the basic stuff. Basically, I'm just saying these are things that happened organically. It wasn't even something where I had to sit down and say, "Oh, this is what we're." It just kind of, I'm, a lot of this stuff is also luck,
Okay.
but you have to prepare yourself for when the luck comes. So you have to be consistent and really work hard. And then when the opportunity comes, you snap, you take advantage of it.
That's interesting. I like that you said a lot of this is luck, because a lot of people who are successful or have some sort of success, they just make it seem like they're the shit and like no matter what it was gonna happen. Or but there is a little bit of luck, right? Like I'm still waiting for my luck to kind of
Yeah,
dozy on in.
there's always an element of luck, right? Yes, there's an element of maybe it would have happened eventually, but if you want it to happen maybe 5 years from now and not 50, you know what I mean? And so it
Yeah,
comes in with the consistency, the hard work, the improvements, the being honest with yourself in like not being deluded or delusional about where you actually stand, and trying to make smart moves, working smart, not necessarily hard all the time, because you also need to take time for yourself, breaks, all that kind of stuff. But I did what I did, work hard, took advantage of the opportunities that I saw in front of me, and that's kind of how we got here. Some of it is just putting work out, making sure you're visible, especially in this digital age. And a lot of times, for a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten, is people reach the biggest opportunities that I've ever gotten is somebody in my DMs. So a lot of it's not even applying for anything,
damn,
So
I like that.
you're working hard and building that community, building that body of work, and if it's good and you are continuously getting better at it, right, things will fall into play. But there's definitely a good chunk of luck.
Did you go to school for drawing or it's all self taught?
When it comes to comics, I would say like 95% self-taught.
Okay,
But I did go to I went to UTA, University of Texas at Arlington, for a computer science major, and then I was a fine art minor. And then over time, I switched them, and I became a computer science minor because I had already taken a bunch of the classes. But
okay,
then after that, I went for a master's in visual communications. I even had my thesis in manga, and I did. That's where I did learn some things from my teacher, who was also like my major professor. Excuse me,
okay.
who was also a manga fan. And he was able to point some things about my game that was like little holes. And I will never forget these things, because it was not even a case of like I didn't agree. Like once he pointed them out, I was like, oh, I see what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think those were really valuable in the way I put my pages together, the way I write my stories as well, those kind of things. But for the most part, I learned like the groundwork. I learned 90% of it online, YouTube, using taking advantage of the internet, and just kind of building from there. Writing tutorials, drawing tutorials, certain tools to making comics, digital, traditional, all that.
shit, man. I mean, again, let me go back to your freaking tutorials. There's so many intricate parts that technically you could hire a person for each one of those parts, but it's like you know how to do everything. That shit is fucking mind blowing, bro.
Yeah, it comes in handy. You save a lot of money, especially if you're, as I can imagine being a writer, and all you do is write. Like to really get your stuff out there, to pay somebody, unless it's like a team. It depends on how you play it, but it can get pretty expensive. You working with someone might not. I used to. I for a period before I did Apple Black, for a short period, I worked with a writer. It's not the. I did not like that experience at all. Not
Yeah.
because I don't know how to work with people. I've worked with other people. I've worked with writers. It's great, but sometimes the certain projects, maybe you just don't click. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you learn to do everything yourself. And again, remember how I got into all of this was just seeing Bleach or Naruto or One Piece. It's literally a singular vision,
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes you might have an editor or whatever that might tweak things, suggest things here and there, make certain changes, but for the most part is this singular vision, right? And so that also plays into how a lot of the things are being created. That said, recently, like maybe late fall of last year, Well, honestly, like maybe early last year, but not too long ago, I have assistants now who help me put so that I can put work out more frequently. And I have a video on it, and the video kind of just breaks down how I was able to do it without so that I can put out more content, put out more quantity without hurting quality. So
Nice.
that was really good.
Nice.
So you eventually, especially if you want to do this professionally and be consistent, like I mentioned, so that you
Mm-hmm.
have more of those opportunities, more of those windows of luck that you can take advantage of. You have to you will need help, and so I'm doing the best I can with that. But I could do everything. So for some of them, I had to train them, not because they weren't talented, but because
Yeah,
I have to like tweak it so it fits. Everything is still uniform looking, and so
hundred percent.
it was a good experience, So yeah.
I get that shit, bro. I'm at like this level, and I'm like, yo, I need fucking help. So I can only imagine, well, where you're at. Before we get into like other stuff, what's your? I'll ask two questions. What's like your all time favorite anime or manga? And then if you're watching anything new now, like what's something that's like, yo, this shit is like fire.
Um, all time favorite is hard, but I usually just say Bleach for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. It was
Okay.
like it's the first one that really pushed me. Now my influences have expanded to not just Bleach, but not just Japanese comics as well. Like a lot of my stuff is starting to be influenced by Western TV shows,
Okay.
Westworld, Game of
That's good.
Thrones,
That's
that kind of stuff.
ooh, you're speaking my language right now.
So it's not like I think it's good to get influence from everywhere, right? Anything that interests you, right? It'll also help kind of set you apart. But if I had to pick, I usually pick Bleach for the
Okay.
reasons that I mentioned, and I really like Bleach. Like there was a period where if you asked me the question, I would have easily said Bleach. But like there have
Okay.
been other really good ones where it's like, is it? You know what I mean? And then what I'm watching now, I'm trying Zom 100, but I recently finished the first season of Chainsaw Man, and I thought that was good.
Very good. Very Chainsaw Man is very good. Animation, blood, all of that shit. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Now I'm 30.
30? All right, so we're like around the same area. I'm 34. Um, then I find very small like pool of 30-year-olds that have like either one of the big three as their main anime. We're always saying like older shit, like oh, like for me, like Yu Yu Hakusho is one of my favorite. I can say that to like a newer or a younger person now. They're like, oh, I never seen that before, and
Yeah,
I'm like, what the hell? Like, how you never seen that?
that's
That's like the
yeah. I think that's also one of the ones that influenced some of the big three and stuff
mm-hmm.
like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
I know about that. But usually the big three, the usual. But I step out a little bit. Not too many people mention shows like Gintama that I thought was really funny. I think when it comes to funny anime, the best to me.
yeah,
Easy,
okay,
easy. It's Do you know what it's about?
no,
It's basically it tries to be the best of both all worlds, and
okay,
it works really well. Where it's basically ancient Japan, like samurais and stuff like that, but instead of it, Japan being what it is today and the world being what it is today, just kind of changed course where aliens came,
okay.
and then they just kind of share technology. So the world is kind of like this ancient Japan slash futuristic world,
I like
but
that.
then not too futuristic as well, where you have like people driving regular cars. So it's almost like aliens came and sped it up a little bit, where there are some parts of the world that are high tech, but then there's some
Yeah.
parts that are just like regular, and then there's some parts where it's like, oh, samurais, right? And then samurai swords I think are banned or something like that. There was a
Okay.
war that happened at first, so there's some nice history, but the story follows three people, the main character and two other people. One of them is an alien, but she looks human, and then another, like they have a giant pet that's also an alien, but it's just a giant dog, and it's
Why
like a
do I feel like I
funny.
know this?
It's kind of like, imagine Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's how they all are. But then there are moments where things are serious, where characters could die, and it's like really cool action. But then
Okay.
there's moments where it's completely ridiculous. Nothing makes sense, and it's all funny. Like there, and then on top of all of this, they parody other anime, and it was in Jump, so they parody Jump. I think the best episode to me, at least the episode where I was like, all right, okay, it were already funny, but now, and I think
Hmm.
it was like episode 25, where they parodied Death Note. And have you seen Death Note, right?
Of course, that's a top tier
Yeah,
right
if
there.
you've not seen Death Note, I just shut down the whole, just shut everything down because
Yeah, Death Note is top
you're
tier.
not you're not real. But there's like, you know how Death Note is like everybody's trying to one up each other. You know, they'll say
Mhm.
something and then they'll pan into the character's face, what they're thinking and stuff
Yep.
like that. So there's a scene where they're all broke. They're always broke, right? And so there's like they had like this nice meal in front of them, and everybody was trying to play each other to get to basically eat it. And
Yeah.
so somebody was like, oh, you know, my tummy hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys can have the meal without me and stuff. And then it'll pan to one of the characters like, ah, this bitch is playing me. She's trying to use sympathy points, you know, to get the money. And then he would implement. I was like, oh, you know what? You can have the money. You can have the food. And basically, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it was a very Death Note episode.
Yeah.
Clearly Death Note, but the way they played it was just way too funny, bro. Way too funny.
I gotta check that out. One of my favorite comedy anime is Shin-Chan. Shin-Chan is
Chan. I don't think I've heard that.
yeah, it's if you see it, you're like, there's no way like this is an anime. Like the drawing is terrible. It looks like a fifth grader drew it. But the comedy, the jokes, it's basically about like this poor family just like living their life. They have two kids. One of the kids is like bad as hell. They have like dirty jokes in it, and it's just hilarious. Um, yeah, that's one of my favorite comedy
Yeah,
animes.
actually, this is Gintama right here.
Oh, I definitely seen that before. All right. All
Yeah.
right, cool. I've seen it, but I haven't watched it. All right,
Yeah.
nice. So I like this. I like this. We're getting into the good shit right now. All right, so let's talk about again. You don't have to get into numbers, but profit wise, like you know, how we living good over there. Like what we looking?
In order to be good, you gotta do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, that and this is not just this is all kind of all publishing. This
Mm-hmm.
is not just comics. This is everything. Novels, case, whatever you want, right? The only people who are truly eating good off of publishing alone are like your Stephen Kings, your J.K. Rowling,
Yeah.
Oda. You have like, yeah, an anime out, and you know what I mean.
Yep.
You've sold millions or at least hundreds of thousands. But when if you're not that, especially when you're starting out, then yeah, you get paid here and there, but it's not enough to do everything. It's not enough to live off of alone. So
Okay.
with me, it's that plus social media, and
Okay.
then plus again some of the things I mentioned, right, where certain opportunities come here and there,
Yeah.
where you know this might be profitable, this might be profitable. Um, licensing might come into play, like merch is coming. Like that, I saw an Apple Black hoodie that I'm like, damn. Even if it wasn't Apple Black, I'm buying that hoodie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tough stuff like that. Toy. When you add it all together, then you may be looking. You may be good, maybe.
Okay.
But
So
all
you got to have
so
like multiple streams coming in. Okay.
you have to have that, or you know, you have to have that unless you're selling like crazy.
Okay.
If you're not selling like crazy, specifically like crazy, if you're not selling like crazy, then nah. And that's usually in the beginning. So
Okay.
it's really like playing the long game,
Yeah.
right? And for now, you might have to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things to get there. But it's not going to happen overnight. And I'm talking people who work in big companies,
Yeah.
right? They still deal with the same thing.
Hmm.
You're not just gonna walk in and all of a sudden you're good. It
Okay.
takes time. It takes time, and it takes time, and it takes successes where you've proven yourself, and you know you can have that coming in. Sometimes there's some people who, like I mentioned, maybe their comic is free, but maybe a certain tier of their Patreon gets to get early access, and because of those people free, they like the story so much they're on the Patreon, and then you just need really you need 1,000 people to give you 10 bucks a month or $1 a month to at least start something. But there are many ways now with the internet to figure out how you want to cook.
Yeah.
So you just need to find your path. And if you're asking specifically for me, I
All
might,
right.
but it's a combination of things, and it's been mostly social media. But there's some other things that are cooking that I can go into too
I
much
got you.
detail about. But and those seem like they'll be great, and it's still comics. But some of it's not even. It's funny because some of it is not even me actually doing comics. It's maybe an editorial role or something like
Okay.
that. And sometimes, it also depends on the company and stuff like that. Sometimes that's like very more lucrative than all the stuff I've been doing.
Shit. You
So
get into
it's
the royalties game,
yeah,
then
and
it's
then
different.
then royalties are also another thing, and advances, and so it just depends. But if you're asking me specifically, I'm good.
Okay. You ever have any mental blocks that you had to get over?
Um, from a creative standpoint.
It could be anything, man. It could be from a creative standpoint, from a drawing standpoint, from a business or money making standpoint. And the reason that I ask that is because a lot of times when people are trying to create things on their own, let's say they're working a job and they're like, yo, I need to get out of this job. I need to, create my own path and provide for my family. And they're building up their thing, but then they hit like a mental road or a mental block to where they can't get over it. And maybe they do get over it and they don't realize it, or maybe they do. Have you ever had that point in your career?
No, no. I think I, in part, if something comes up, then I'll bring it up. But just thinking right now,
Okay.
a just knowing that if I shut down, everything else shuts down. My body's just not gonna let me. There are moments where I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There are moments where there's like so many things to like so much on my plate where it's like, golly, I don't know where to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And or sometimes you don't even do anything because it's like it's so much. But eventually I get over that. So I'll say maybe that at best.
Okay.
And that's where the artist procrastination comes in. But at the same time, I know I got to keep moving. If not, you know, organs will fail. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I try to do that. And then from a narrative standpoint, it's always been fun. Even when I get to a place where I'm writing stuff and I'm trying to figure things out, even the process of figuring it out to me is fun.
Okay.
And sometimes I end up maybe what I'm trying to figure out is figure out what okay how do we end this chapter or this series or this fight. I might have the problem might not be I don't have any idea. Most times is because I have too many.
Okay.
And it's like okay, I have to figure out what the best one is. But again, those usually are fun for me to figure out. But just
Cool.
general blocks, it's unless unless you want to call being overwhelmed a block, that happens
Could
every now
be.
that happens every now and then.
Okay.
But eventually my body won't rest. I won't even sleep well because I know I have stuff to do. And
Yeah.
so I'll get over that eventually. Like I'll just pick something and I'll start doing it. I'll stay organized or come up with a plan. It usually
Okay.
helps when you come up with a plan, a to-do list of some kind that makes sense. And then my point is eventually I'll keep moving because my body will start to. I'll always know something's wrong. Even when you're sleeping, your body's asleep, but your mind's awake. You know.
Yeah.
So if that's a block, then sure.
Okay. All right. Cool. No, I gotta ask that, man, because again, it's like whether you're an athlete, building your own business, creating your own manga or comic. It's like sometimes people get blocked on shit. I know I get blocked on shit all the time that I have to like figure out how to get over. I am nowhere near like the most perfect person. And I know a lot of people comment on all the shit that I do, but I always gotta go to someone and I'm like, yo, I don't get like why this video didn't pop, or does this look trash? Like, I'm always asked. I have like one or two people that I go to in my life that'll let me know if something that I'm doing is like trash or weak, they will fucking let me know, and I trust their judgment, and I'll go back to the drawing board.
That's
That's
good,
something
man.
that, yeah, I kind of use. You got anybody like that, or you just kind of like do your writing and creation and everything on your own?
I do have someone like that, one guy, but I don't. And well, I have two people like that, and one guy and a girl, and I don't usually utilize it often, right? I usually just
Okay.
kind of go, but it is nice to get that feedback and just get general thoughts. Maybe there's something you didn't think of. Maybe there's something you missed, or maybe there's something you're trying to confirm. Because sometimes I'll give somebody like they're with Apple, for instance, right? With Apple Black Volume 1 to 4, to me, even as the creator, right?
Yep.
You know, I might be a little biased, but even as the creator, I think I don't think it's perfect, right? But I think each volume is better than the last.
Okay.
And but then and again, without going into too much detail, the nitty gritty of the story and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, I think each volume is better than the last. To what degree, we'll leave that for a second. But the fourth volume, which I also wrote and create and all that, right? The fourth volume, I think, is better than everything by far, right?
Okay.
So sometimes I'll send someone, there's one of these people, and I'll have them read everything. And if they come to me with what I expect, which is like, oh man, I was enjoying it, but they have volume 4 though, you know,
Yeah.
every single time. So it's a way to kind of, okay, I'm not crazy. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I'm not crazy.
okay.
So
So what
sometimes
is
I do
it?
stuff like that.
What is it about Volume 4? Is it the story? Is it the artwork? Like, what in your progression got you to where it's like, yo, Volume 4 is the one?
It's a combination of things, and I don't want to make it seem like volume 1 to 3 aren't, because again, I'm putting out stuff. I want to, in a perfect world, I would like for volume 1 to be the only thing you read, and it's like, oh shoot, I gotta keep reading. I gotta
Well,
stick with the
I
story.
will fucking vouch for you. Volume 1, like, you'll be hooked after chapter 1. Like, you're
I,
gonna read it and be like, yo, this is fucking top tier.
I
Like,
appreciate that.
yeah.
So I appreciate that, right? So, and I don't know if you saw, there's this video of this guy. It was a joke, but it was so unexpected, where he sent like a audio message on Instagram
I
where
saw the video. I haven't watched it yet.
yeah, it was a crazy. He was saying some wild thing, right? You can just watch it, and that was just volume 1, right? So I don't want to give the impression that, oh, volume 1 to 3. And again, I think each volume is better than the last.
Mhm.
But with volume 4, it's a combination of things. Volume 1, those pages, the art, all of that, like my book has gone through many, like it's based. This is essentially a re-release,
Okay.
because the previous version of the book, there are previous versions of the book that existed, and it was slightly different experience. Maybe a few things in the story moved around, maybe a little bit of dialogue different. Now it's, it's improved in the art and story and all that.
Okay.
But with the story, with the content itself, if you just take volume 1 as it is today, like 80% of it, I drew that, at least a first take at it, in 2012, right?
Shit.
So I've improved
Yeah.
since then, right? So volume 2, a chunk of that is from years ago. Volume
Mm-hmm.
3, a chunk of that, less and less, right? So if volume 1 is like 80% is from years ago, volume 2 maybe like 70%, volume 3 maybe like 50% is from like old stuff, like just moved around, clean. It's a completely new experience, but a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of the skeleton of the story, not all of it, but a chunk of it is still from old, right?
Yeah.
Volume 4 is the first time that almost everything is brand new. Like
Gotcha.
95% of it is brand new, right?
Okay.
So the art, the story, the dialogue, and this is feeding off of everything I've learned all these years from reading, watching other things, right? Understanding how to get people truly engaged,
Yeah.
everything, right? So it volume 4 benefits from that. And then on top of that, volume 4 is also, you can see volume 1 to 4 as a first arc,
Okay.
right? And then volume 4 is kind of like season finale stuff.
Mm.
So there's a lot of questions answered, a lot of new questions, cool new questions asked. So without giving anything away, that's why.
Okay. Shit, man. That's incredible. So, yeah, we got a fucking 10-year span. Oh, you said 2012, right? I
2012.
can't even.
So like
What's that?
11.
11 years. Yeah, I can't even freaking do math.
Mind
I'm
you,
freaking.
it's 11 when I finished it, but obviously I was like thinking about the story, writing stuff, blah blah, even before that. So
Shit, man. Fucking 11 years in the making. A fucking bomb ass story, bomb ass artwork. I mean, the artwork, like I said, artwork in volume 1 is already elite. I can't even imagine what the artwork is going to be in volume 4.
I appreciate
Fuck,
it.
man.
I can't wait to share it. So,
That's
and
dope.
that's is those kind of things where it's like, I also don't want to. I also don't want to overhype the volume 4, not because I don't think it's that good, but also I want people. Sometimes when you overhype something, then they're going into it expecting stuff. I want you to just go in, chill, have fun, take a sip of your Starbucks, and just read and just have a blast. But again, it's one of those things where working or just having that friend confirm some of those things, that's where
Yeah,
they come into play sometimes. And occasionally some of them might have like ideas for certain things that I think have been very useful. But yeah.
I like it. That's dope, man. That's dope. But yeah, man, this was awesome, bro. I really appreciate you, obviously reaching out to me. I was planning on gonna check out Saturday AM regardless, just because even before I started doing this, I was already following you guys. I was already looking at some of your projects anyway, and I was just like, man, I gotta find time to sit down to actually read one of your projects. And then you just hit me up, and I was like, yo, I got all this shit. I was like, let me clear my fucking slate as soon as possible so I could get to this.
I
And
appreciate that. Huh?
yeah, man, I'm hyped that I did, because yeah, like I said, the artwork speaks for itself. But then when you actually read the story, you're like, oh, this is like on another level, man. So
I appreciate that.
I
Bro.
I
Appreciate that.
appreciate you taking the time out to be a guest on the show, be a guest on the pod. Is there anything that you want to plug, promote, or talk about before we get out of here? I do want to keep you back for maybe like 10, 15 minutes for Patreon, and then I'll let you get back to your night. But yeah,
Uh,
anything you want to plug?
just I hope people obviously check out all the Apple Black volumes, but also check out all the other some of the other Saturday EM gems. I think there's a series Underground that just got covered by Comic Beat, and that was Underground is one of those underrated ones. Clock Striker is another one that's really good. I mean, all of them. I'm vouching for all of them, right? There's like a Norse mythology one, Gunhild, Henshin if you like Super Sentai stuff, if you like Pokemon, Digimon, massively multiplayer World of Ghosts. There's Hammer if you like One Piece and Scott Pilgrim type stuff. Um, Sagami, Oblivion Rouge, Titan King. So there's a bunch of stuff you can check out on the Saturday-am.com website, as well as our social media. And then if you want to learn how to draw manga and all that kind of stuff, you can check out the Whyt Manga TV here on YouTube or wherever this is going to be posted.
There you go. Yeah, this is going to be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Patreon. Got the review of Oblivion Rouge on YouTube as well.
I saw
Another
that. I
fire
saw that.
one.
I saw that. It was good.
Yes. That was Pap Soli, man. That was another fire project. His artwork, man, it's almost like an sort of
It's
like
trippy.
yeah, trippy new age, like African sci-fi.
Yeah.
I don't know, that shit's fire, bro. Shit's fire. So
Yep.
yeah, again, it's like it just shows the quality of the storytelling in the projects that you got at Saturday AM. But
Yeah.
yeah, Whyt Manga, I appreciate you, and I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.
Peace, guys. Thanks for having me.